Hey guys, so today I'm going to be learning Python for the first time ever. My only experience of programming was about 25 years ago. I spent 3 months teaching myself a bit of Visual Basic in Excel, but Python is now useful in data analytics and also in AI, so I thought I'd spend some time teaching myself and I'll let you guys follow along. So the first thing obviously we got to do is download it. So here I am on the python.org website, and then find the latest version of Python and click download for Windows or Linux or Macs, whatever your operating system is. And then as soon as you've clicked your download, open a file and it will pull up your installer options. Now, I don't want to install it to C drive, so I'm going to choose a custom install. Also, I've read that you want to click both use admin privilege when installing and add python.exe to path. That will allow you to call Python from the command prompt, and it doesn't matter which command prompt, it'll be able to find it regardless of where it's installed. Right, so once you do that, you've got all these. They come up already ticked, as you can see, so I'm just accepting them. Now this is where I'm going to choose a different pathway from this C users app data. Also, you've got options to choose other things. I've only got one user on this computer, so that's why I'm not going to pick the first one. Those three are already highlighted, so I'm assuming that I should keep those. And then pre-compile standard library. I'm going to click that only because I know libraries are a big thing in Python. They're kind of like a collection of sort of like pre-built-in commands of what they call functions. So I'm going to click that. And then the other two, which I didn't click, are to do with sort of like more deep level debugging. Now, if I need them in future, I can always add them, but I don't think I need them for now. So there you go. I'm just going to put my path in that I want it to install, and then I'm going to click install. Don't worry, that should happen. And there you go, it's installed. And now I'm just going to have a look at this. I'll probably open this online tutorial and documentation stuff just so I got it for saving down and reading later. And again, I'll probably at some point go through the online tutorial. There you go, that's that, and that's that. I think it already downloads it as well to my computer. And this is my Defender asking me, do I want to disable this sort of like limit? And I do, because basically you might have your script saved down, and if the pathway is more than 260 characters, then obviously it's not going to be able to access those. So click that, get rid of it, and there you go. That should be Python installed. And the first thing we're going to do is go and test that it's installed. So we need to go and open the command prompt, which you can do by typing in run. And then this brings up your command prompt. And then all you need to do is type in Python. I think it's Python space hyphen V, just to make sure it's downloaded the correct version. So that's Python space hyphen V. There you go, Python 3.12.2. That's exactly what I'd asked it to install, so we know that it seems to be running okay from the command prompt. And then I'll just close this and I'll just double check that it's definitely on my computer. So yeah, just type in Python and there you can see that's the executable path. So it's installed correctly. Right, the Python interpreter. This is effectively what reads Python. So you go into your command prompt and type Python, and there you go. Now you'll see those three little arrows. That means that you're now Python's running, and you can just double check it's running by carrying out a bit of arithmetic. Python interpreter is effectively what allows you to run scripts and make sure you're effectively typing directly into the Python program, so to speak, but you can't save your programs. It's more for debugging than testing code than actually writing code. But here, as you can see, I'm just doing a bit of arithmetic. So that's a simple 12 plus 38. The spaces aren't necessary. And as you see, it gives us 50. 3 and that little asterisk, if you don't know, stands for times. And that's given us 11. And I'm just checking that the order of operations work. So it should do what's in brackets first. 21. So that's all correct. So that's basically what we know, that Python's up and running and working. Okay, so the next thing is to do is to make a pathway where I want to save my scripts. And scripts are the programs that you write in Python, and they're just basically any text editor is how you can write Python. So even something as simple as Notepad. So there you go. I'm just creating a new folder to save down my scripts, and I've called it Python scripts. And here I'm going to write my first script, and it's going to be to test the print function. And the print function is a Python function that outputs data as a string to the screen. So this is the simplest and apparently the standard first programming for any language, is pretty much how to make your computer say hello world. So its print function is print with open bracket, close bracket, and whatever you want it to output in quotation marks. So that's what I've done there. The quotation marks in Python can be single or double, but not a mix. So now I'm just going to save it down, and to save it down as a Python script, so there you go, I'm putting it in the directory that I want it to be in. And now you're just going to name it whatever hello.py. It always needs to be .py to make it a Python executable. So now we should be able to make this run that script by calling it into the interpreter. What I've realized here though is that this is in C, but I've saved them down in D. So I'm just trying to figure out that I need to open a new command prompt, and then I need to change it to run in D. So there you go. Just type in D and it changes it to D. And now I'm changing the directory to Python scripts where I've got them saved. And then once I've done that, all you have to do is write Python space and hello.py to run the name of the script. As you can see, it's only done the first line. It's telling me that the second one's got an error in it. This is a syntax error. So if I reopen it, you can see there it's got a capital P. If you change it back to a small p and save it, that's fixed it. It doesn't recognize the capital P, so it needs to be lowercase p. And now if I try it, Python hello.py to call the script, there you go, it works. So that was just to test both the double and the single quotes work. So that's basically the print function. Now let's go on and look at the next thing, variables. Right, so here I am just typing out a bit of descriptive stuff. So you'll see that where it's got the hash, Python program ignores that, and it's for putting into your code a single line descriptor. But if you want to have a multiple line descriptor, you have to use triple quotes. So you'll see it's got a triple quotes at the start and it'll need triple quotes at the end. Putting descriptions, so comments, in your programming is one of the most important things that you need to get used to. It's so that when you or other people come back to see your code, you're able to identify it and interpret what it's doing much easier. So that's why I'm doing this now, just to get used to commenting and putting descriptions in my code. So that's what I'm typing here. Now then, variables. There you go. That's what those are for. Variables are containers that can hold values, and they can change during the execution of the program, hence the name variable. They must be assigned a value when declared, and that's called initialising. So creating the variable is declaring a variable, and giving it a value to start with is called initialising the variable. Python uses dynamic typing, which means that you don't need to specify the variable type, because variables come in all sorts of different types. Now for some program languages, you have to specify what variable type you're going to put in that variable, and it's all to do with the computer making enough storage space for that variable. And if you haven't declared the right type of variable first, then it won't work properly if you try and put a different variable in there, and that's called static typing. But Python doesn't use that. You can just declare a variable and initialize it with any variable, and it will automatically save whatever storage space it needs in the memory for that type of variable without being declared or stated. So what I'm doing now is I'm just about to initialize a variable, and you should give your variables relevant names. And how you declare a variable is you type it in and you put equals after it. Once you've got equals, then Python knows that that's a variable, and then the value that comes after the variable is what's going to be assigned to that variable. So here you can see I've declared a variable called myFirstVar, which stands for my first variable, and then I've initialized it with the value 5, and then I'm just asking it to print to the screen that value. So that's why it says print myFirstVar, which is obviously what the variable's called. Now I'm going to assign a float, so it's going to overwrite the original value with another value now, and a float is a decimal, a variable with a decimal. An integer obviously has to be a whole number. A float, it allows for decimals. So now again, all I'm saying is, and obviously programs execute line by line, so once it moves on to that line, myFirstVar equals, it will overwrite the 5 that's stored in that variable with 3.142, and now I'm asking it to print out again the variable value on the screen. And again, for the last one, I'm assigning it. Now I know that says sting, but that's supposed to be string. There's a few spelling mistakes which I've got in the commentary, but because it's commentary, it's not going to affect the program. So what it's going to do now, I've asked it to assign the string Python is easy ? And overwrite the 3.142. And then the last one, I'm asking it to assign a Boolean variable. A Boolean can only be a true or false. It's a logical variable and it only accepts variables true or false. Now I'm just saving it down as a script, and now I'm going to ask it to run that script just by going back into our run command, type in Python space and the name of the script, and there it is, 3.142 Python is easy ? And false. So that's what variables are, how you assign, how you declare them, how you initialize them, and how you assign others. And there you go, look at that. I've managed to correct one of my spelling mistakes. Not sure about the others. Now what I want is a new window, because this time I'm going to look at the input function. So this is the opposite of the print function. Whereas a print function outputs information to the screen, the input function asks the user to provide a value, and then it will include that into a variable. So that's basically what the input function does. So as you can see, user input can be assigned to a variable using the Python input function. And yeah, I've misspelled input, haven't I? Yeah, there you go. Right. Now what it is, it's a string. And a string is just basically sort of like text. So it's a string variable that prompts the user for input, and then it will assign that input to the variable, and then obviously I can display that input variable back out to the screen by using the print function. I'm just going to be able to do that just to verify that the input function has worked. So I'll ask the user to a question, wait for the answer. I'll take that answer as input, put it into a variable, and then I can use that in the reference it in the output back to the screen. So it's almost like the computer is able to talk to you. So here you are, I'm initializing the user input variable. So user_var is the variable. It's the variable because it's followed by the equal sign. And then I'm using the function input function, and it's saying user_var is equal to the input function, and then it's going to type out that string onto the screen, and then it's going to wait for the user input. That user input will then be assigned to the user_var variable. And now I'm just going to confirm that that's worked and it's accepted that user input into the user_var variable by asking it to print. So I'm using the print function to output, and I'm going to put like a string first of all. So that's what that is, and it's a string because again it's contained in quotation marks. And then I can put a comma. Now I can put the name user_var. So that means I'm printing out the nice to meet you string. The comma then separates that, and because user_var is the name of the variable, Python recognizes that as that variable, and it doesn't type out user_var, it types out the whatever value is held within that container, which is obviously the input that I've just put in. And then I'll finish off, I'll put another comma, and then it'll finish off with that second string. I'm going to save this down now as a script. And now here I'm actually making an error, which I didn't realize that you couldn't have spaces, but I've saved it down anyway, and now I'm going to call it from Python. But I've made a mistake already because I've already forgotten what I've called it. I've typed user data, but it's called user input. So I'm going to try again. See now it says can't open the file, it doesn't exist. I've done it again because I've now put it as a single, whereas I've got a space in it. So I'm asking it to do it again. I'm having a right mare at this point, aren't I? Here I've put a space and .py, and it still doesn't recognize it. And I tested this offline later, and it doesn't recognize it because of the space. You can't have spaces in it, won't recognize it. I'm fixing it now to remove the space, but it's still not going to recognize it because I didn't put .py at the end. So I saved it down as a text file, not a py file. So again, it can't find it. This time I'm going to go back in and put the .py at the end. And now finally, when I ask it to run, there you go, it runs. it's asking me, hello, welcome to Python. What is your name? There you go. I've typed in Bob the Builder. And now you can see, nice to meet you, Bob the Builder. Let's learn Python. So it took that Bob the Builder that I put in, and then it used that as the output in that print function. And there you can see that's where I'd saved it as a text document, not a .py. Okay, so that's basically the end of our first lesson in Python. Let's recap what we've learned. So number one, you download Python from www.python.org. Number two, you can run Python from the command prompt. To open the command prompt, you go to the Windows search bar and type run. Number three, the command prompt acts as an interpreter where you can run Python scripts and code but not save code. Number four, to save your scripts in accessible directory folder. Number five, your scripts can be written in any plain text editor, but do not use a word processor. They have hidden formatting, so that would mess up the programming. Number six, you must save your scripts down with the .py file extension. Number seven, to run open command prompt and change the directory path to where they are saved using the cd pathway command, then type Python space name of the script .py. The print function outputs a variable as a string to the screen. A string must be contained in double quotations or single quotations. Number 9, it is important to annotate your code for future assistance in reading, understanding and debugging your code. Number 10, the hash is used for annotating a single line, and enclosing your text in triple quotation marks is used to annotate multiple lines. Number 11, Python ignores both hash and text contained in triple quotation marks. It does not treat it as code. Number 12, code executes line by line. 13, variables are containers used to hold values that a program can use. Number 14, a variable is declared using the equal operator, e.g. variable name equals. 15, when declared, a variable must be initialized with a value, e.g. variable name equals initialized value. Number 16, the variable value can be subsequently assigned a different value. Number 17, the input function is used to accept data from the user and assign the input value to a variable, e.g. input variable equals input open bracket, the string is the question that you're going to ask, close bracket. You can then use, number 18, you can then use this input as output to test it work correctly using the print function, e.g. print open bracket string comma input variable comma following string close bracket. When naming your scripts, do not use numbers 19. When naming your scripts, do not use spaces as Python will not recognize them. And number 20, we do not need to focus on my spelling issues. Okay guys, well I think we learned quite a bit in our first lesson. So thanks for following along with me. And if you're coming on this journey, then hopefully we'll learn Python together. I'll see you soon in the next lesson. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.